We're back on with Chicken Nugget lore again. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. We're getting back onto some more lore again because apparently the lore just ended, and probably in the worst way possible. And let me explain why. First off, let's go ahead and talk about the events that started to lead up to this very disappointing ending. After a bit of time of Chicken Nugget being the demigod of chaos, starting to do all this destruction, we finally go ahead and see what French Fry and the gang are up to. French Fry has not done anything about this lore until very last minute, when Chicken Nugget is finally the demigod. When Chicken Nugget is finally at that point. That's when French Fry and Ice Cream eventually decide to do it. Not in the events like before Chicken goes insane and all that stuff. They do it last minute. And that's also kind of infuriating. But anyways, Chee and Slushy go up to French Fry and they talk to them about it. And French Fry they eventually explain everything to the both of them on what is going on and what just happened there. Slushy actually questioned if something bad was supposed to happen in the process. And French Fry said that they were just kind of stuttering a lot at the time. They were just like, And then they eventually decide, let's explain everything, let's get this all together so that we can go ahead and discuss just what is going on with Chicken. The episode afterwards, French Fry and Ice Cream, are starting to get in contact with their overlords. Ice Cream gets in contact with their overlord, and their overlord, from what it looks like on that little text message, is not very happy with them. So Bezel eventually goes ahead and interrupts them, saying, looks like your two little watchdog act is fruitless, because apparently Bezel's plan is going in action so far, and Bezel's intent was to have all this chaos happen. He's just kind of there to make the plot just start to rise. And yes, the plot is finally at its major climax at this point, which is Chicken Nugget turning into the demigod. So, it turns out we find out that Bezel is actually the doomsday clock. And Slushy is actually a manifested... Slushy apparently, it's a little confusing to explain this in particular part, but with Bezel and Slushy, apparently Slushy is inspired. Like I said, this part is very confusing to explain, but apparently Bezel is like a Slushy original form, so his form that he goes in is not even his true form. It's just a manifestation of Slushy's. And honestly, that's kind of not surprising to hear, especially since Slushy was originally crushing on Bezel before the lore started to get onto a major level. Slushy was crushing on Bezel a lot. And then after that, that's when things start to escalate. Things eventually start to go chaotic. Bees, huge bees buzzing everywhere, static all around, whirlpools in the air. All of this chaos is going on, and even Hot Sauce and Coffee are just freaked out about everything. Chicken Nugget ends up in Hot Sauce's coffee. Old Pea's just watching everything, being casual about it. And French Fry and Ice Cream have to team up using good and evil to stop the demigod of chaos. So they eventually finally get into it, where the lore's realm kind of just takes place. After all of that happened, here's a part where this is kind of one of the only, really major things that Chicken has done throughout this entire lore, and it's a little disappointing. It's kind of funny at the same time, but actually, I've wished for this for a long time, to see Bezel as an animal, and we've finally done it. Ladies and gentlemen, Bearzel. Yep, Chicken Nugget had made Bezel a bear. And it's not surprising that this is actually a Funtime Freddy reference, especially since Kellen Goff actually voices Funtime Freddy in Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm not a part of the FNAF fandom, but that's what I've heard from a lot of fans. After that happens, Basil eventually realizes he can't do much about this anymore. He doesn't have his clock powers. Well, actually, no, he still had his clock powers, but he couldn't turn back into his original form. And French fry and ice cream. Actually, well, Basil eventually decides to team up with French fry and ice cream after that happens. And now we get to one of the more major parts where Chikn is now even more chaotic than ever, having moments in time where he would become vulnerable. Mainly because he's still trying to find his old self, and his old self is begging to come out of his mind, basically. While his demigod version is just needing all the chaos and doesn't need anybody. Sodi is still a little bit upset at Chikn about the whole thing, and, well, Chikn is not from the Chikn.nuggit box. Also another lore episode, but that's honestly not a big surprise of any sort now, because, well, Chikn came from the center of the universe, basically. Because, yeah, a while back, Basil actually did mention that we were gradually approaching the culmination of Chikn turning into the demigod, and yeah, we're here now. So yeah, what makes this ending so disappointing, you may ask? Well, let me keep going before we get there. Well, it's finally doomsday, and everybody is just in pure shock. They're all scared, and French fry and ice cream finally, they put Chikn in this, like, purple orb thing, and Basil actually closes up the purple orb, and Chikn's just kind of trapped in there with no way out. So Chikn tries his best to get outside of the little purple orb thing, but it turns out that Chikn, well, he's still going through, like, his crises and stuff, where his old self's, like, coming back every now and then. And yeah, he is stuck in the orb. Okay, now we're getting on to the more disappointing part. Now we're getting to the part where Chee actually starts to go inside of this purple orb, where Chikn is in there. Chee eventually is like, let me go talk to Chikn. Let me go see him. I need to talk to him. He's my friend, all of that. French fry and ice cream eventually let Chee in, and Chee goes inside and talks to Chikn. They close up the orb, and Chee is inside of the orb with the demigod Chikn. But the thing with this is that I felt like Chee only went in there to stop Chikn. Wanna know why? Well, the episode beforehand wasn't so bad, but it's the episode after, well, this current episode, as of September 2nd, 2024, well, the YouTube exclusive, the most recent YouTube exclusive that just came out today. Yep, that episode. The episode before, Chee was actually pretty nice to Chikn, and I felt like she was definitely more reasonable. But it was this episode that started to really infuriate me and kind of piss me off. And it's because of the way that they took this lore and put it at an end, pretty much. The thing with that is that Chee just told Chikn to shut up and just stop what he's doing and rub it off like it's no big deal. And Chikn is just very mad. He's still trying to figure out who he is, and he's going through a freaking existential crisis. And your friend, okay, guys, picture this. You are going through an existential crisis, a mental and existential crisis, and your friend just tells you to shut up, rub it off, it's no big deal. Your depression just needs to stop. Just stop doing what you're doing. You're just hurting everybody else by doing what you're doing. Like, that's just more hurtful, honestly, to hear than just encouraging words. Like, it's okay, we're going to get through this. What's the matter? What happened? And now we're going to go ahead and talk about what they could have done better about this ending. How could they have done this lore ending better than the way that they did? Well, let's go ahead and explain a couple of things that they could have done much better. First off, Chee's attitude. The way that Chee had her attitude in the most recent episode was honestly kind of infuriating to watch. It was just very mean, and it was kind of pissy, and it was just kind of rude. It didn't feel genuine, like a genuine bond and friendship and fun and all that stuff, but it felt more like it was kind of forced. You had to do it to save your world. You didn't want to, you kind of had to do it. It felt forced. It did not feel genuine. They could have made this so much more genuine. And you want to know how they could have done it? First off, by mentioning the whole friendships versus relationship situation that happened back in May of this year. You see, back in May of 2024, Chikn was trying to reach out to Chee like good friends would, and Chikn was trying to be a supportive and encouraging friend to Chee. But Chee had, well, some time to spend with her girlfriend, and she was like, "Oh, sorry, I've gotta go. I'm hanging out with my girlfriend today." Chikn then says, "That's okay, next time." And then the next 2 times shown, I've already explained this before, but the next 2 times shown, Chee is still just hanging out with Coffee and not Chikn. And that was when the Armageddon really started, was because of that episode in particular. It made Chikn upset, and it made him just go kind of crazy in the mind. So it was starting to get kind of scary. But yeah. The thing was, Chee could have asked Chikn, "What's the matter? What's wrong? Why are you doing this?" And Chikn would have eventually mentioned the situation very angrily. He would have been like, "You were my best friend. Why did you spend so much time with your girlfriend? I felt left out of everything. I felt like I needed somebody to be there for me, but they weren't there for me. And I was very upset," and all this stuff. And she could have actually apologized to Chikn in that episode, where she would be like, "I'm sorry, Chikn. I didn't know I was hurting you this badly." And Chikn kind of growls at Chee, probably. Chikn would growl at Chee, and Chee would be like, "I'm sorry, Chikn." And they would just sit in the orb and probably just hug it out for a little bit of time. And Chikn would probably still explain what was going on and all that stuff too. The thing was, Slushy could have also comforted Chikn too. Like, well, maybe not going in the orb like that, but like earlier in the lore, Slushy could have comforted Chikn, but she didn't either. Nobody did. Literally nobody. Sodi just kind of abandoned Chikn, and it also made Chikn feel left out, and that was kind of Chicken's last straw before he really became the demigod, was when Sodi got angry at Chikn because Chikn unintentionally passed on his powers to Sodi. And yeah, I felt like that was a better, much better ending. They still could have been in the orb, and she still could have talked it out to Chikn, but not in the way that she did. And French Fry was out there praying and stuff. Ice Cream was just kind of there. And Bezel, it's funny because Bezel in that episode, it's an out of context moment, I guess you could say. But Bezel was just kind of like, "Oh yeah, she's a goner. She's definitely gotten eaten by the demigod." I found that kind of funny. Like, to break off the sad chunks of ice. That was kind of funny. But yeah. Also, another thing that I kind of want to point out, I really want them to keep the freaking Bearzel form and not Bezel. Because I'm telling you guys, Bearzel is so freaking cute. I just freaking love Bearzel. Just a very angry little teddy bear just showing up to everything. It's so cute. And I'm about to go ahead and explain just a couple more things before we end it off here. And that is some things that actually fans have been saying. And do I agree with them or not? One of those things is that the lore is rushed. The thing with this is, yes and no, I can and can't agree with this. No, because of the fact that this lore has been going on for 2 years straight to finally get to the climax. But yes, because after the climax, things were kind of rushed. And I'm not saying they're completely rushed, but they are definitely kind of rushed, and the lore is a little choppy, especially since there are shorter episodes. And I'm telling you guys, they could have done YouTube exclusive episodes But I do get why they did the shorts for the lore instead of the episodes, but they could have done episodes for a much better, less choppy lore kind of deal. Because the lore was just kind of choppy on the way through when it came to the episodes. We just barely even got to digest one thing. But yeah. So my thoughts on that in particular statement are yes and no. The lore is, but it took 2 years to get to that climax point. Like, we've been in the rising action for a good 2 years, but then when we finally get to the climax, yes, it does kind of feel rushed. We just kind of ended there, pretty much. But I'm telling you, that reaction from Chee did actually piss me off. It made me so mad when she reacted. Just like, shut up, don't do this. Don't keep destroying the world. Just not a genuine reaction. She only did this to friggin' save the world. But I'm hoping, okay, I'm not saying that the lore's over yet, but I'm hoping that in these next possibly 1 or 2 episodes, that they at least say something about this whole, oh, sorry, girlfriend thing. I hope they at least mention it once before the lore ends, because it's about to end pretty much right here. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this whole lore thing, and these are my final thoughts on the lore and everything, and thank you guys for watching. So, yeah, let's just hope this is gonna end well.